Hello, everybody. Welcome to Brewing Books. I am so excited. We have some amazing guest stars here today. My co-host is having a little bit of internet trouble. So J.M. Sullivan will be joining us very shortly as soon as her internet connection works. But until then, we've got some amazing authors with us. In just a second. But first, let me explain to you how this is going to work. Brewing Books is a monthly live broadcast where we bring on authors to talk about different topics and genres within the book community. And we're really excited because this week we are talking all about retellings. Now, we are going to have a set question and answer. You can talk to us at any point throughout the course of this broadcast. There's a chat box on the right side of your screen. Go ahead and talk to us, talk to the other people in the chat room, have conversations. But if you have a question for one of us, there's a red question mark tab. If you click that, it's going to highlight that for us in the chat box so that we can find it later on when we go back to question and answers. So thank you guys so much for joining us. I'm really excited to see everyone. We do have people popping in right now. Dana, hello. Jess, hi. Natasha, thank you so much for joining us. We're really glad to see you here. Go ahead and type in the chat box who you are, where you're from, and what your favorite book is. Today, we're talking all about retellings. I'm going to let the wonderful ladies on screen with me introduce themselves. So, Mika, why don't you go first?
Okay. I am Mika James. I have one book. That's a retelling. It's a Beauty and Beast retelling called Fiendish. And so I am in the process of doing a follow-up to that one currently, but it's taking a little while, but it's in the works.
Fantastic. Alicia, go ahead and tell us a little bit about you and your book.
Okay. My name is Alicia Gale. I am working on releasing Trial by Song, which is a retelling of Jack and the Beanstalk with some other fairy tales and folklore mixed in. It comes out August 3rd.
Oh, fantastic. That is right around the corner, too. That is so exciting. Well, my name is K.M. Robinson. I am the author of Golden, which is the first book in the Golden trilogy. This is my young adult retelling of Goldilocks and the Three Bears. And my co-host, J.M. Sullivan, is the author of Alice, which is the first book in the Wonderland Chronicles, which is a young adult retelling of Alice in Wonderland. Now, J.M. is having a little bit of trouble with her internet. She should hopefully be back soon. If she cannot come back, she will be here for our next broadcast, which we will tell you about in just a little bit. Natasha, thanks so much for jumping into that chat box. I'm super glad to see you. Let us know a little bit about you guys. And I know that we've got some other people hanging out in the room with us. I'm just checking to see who's hanging out with us at this point. Jess, we're so excited to see you. Dana, we are excited to see you guys as well. In the chat box, we are going to be discussing retellings, and I'm seeing over in the chat box that Dana is having some technical issues. Dana, go ahead and refresh that page for me, and that should clear it up for you. Hopefully that'll clear it up for you. Otherwise, let me know. We're going to be talking all about retellings today. In the chat box, I want you to hit me up and let us know what you love most about retellings. So why are you a fan of retellings? Authors, let's actually get into that. Why are you such fans of retellings? Alicia, tell me first, why are you a fan of retellings?
I really like exploring sort of the nostalgia that every story that you pick up that's a retelling, you obviously enjoyed the first one, and then exploring like deeper elements to those stories.
I love that, going that deeper level and learning what we maybe didn't know before. I really enjoy that about retellings too. Mika, tell me, why are you a fan of retellings?
I like being able to take something that people know, have read before, understood, and then adding something different to it, sort of put your own spin on it. It's just, it gives you some, like it's a story that people know and they love, but you can put a new spin on it where people look at it a different way, which sort of opens their eyes up to something a little different, kind of like what J.M. She made zombies out of Alice in Wonderland. That's something you wouldn't have expected with Alice in Wonderland. It's just being able to take something that's old and give it a fresh look.
I love that. One of my favorite things about retellings is that it does go deeper into that story and you get that fresh take on it. And you kind of discover things that you didn't realize you didn't know before. So when I was a little girl, I always loved the children's books when they told you the real story behind whatever fairy tale it was. And you got to see how the bad guy wasn't the bad guy and the good guy wasn't necessarily the good guy. And it put these really big twists on it that changed your perspective. And that is one of my favorite things about retellings, that it takes what you thought you knew and proves to you you never understood it and really twists it up. Sound off in the chat box for us, guys. What is it that you love about retellings? We're getting hearts. We're getting comments. We love seeing from you guys. So tell us why you are such fans of retellings. I want to talk a little bit about retellings in general. Do you ladies have any book suggestions, things that you really like within the world of retellings that we could talk about?
Well, I always like just about any retelling by Juliet Marillier. That's how you say her last name. Definitely the Daughter of the Forest book, I think, was her very first one, and it retold the Six Swans. And it was just a fabulous look that went deeper into that story. It was just a really great emotional journey to a story we already knew.
Fantastic. Mika, what do you think?
I mean, I would have to agree. And it goes into it, like, I've read some, or you've even seen like the movies of certain ones, and they sort of stick close to the actual fairy tale. But when you find one that sort of takes it and gives it a different spin, it looks at it a different way. It just makes it opens your eyes up, like you said, to something that you didn't expect before, and gives you a different take on the situation.
Okay, so I'm seeing in the comments that retellings take our childhood stories and allow them to still be new to us, just from an adult perspective. So the story gets to grow with you. Also, retellings tend to be darker, which is very interesting. Natasha Lane, girl, I think you hit it right on the head there. I absolutely love that. Those things that we knew as children grow up with us, whether it is a young adult retelling, a middle grade retelling, or an adult retelling. We have that growth. We get to see new layers that we didn't see when we were so young. I love that. That was very well said. Now, ladies, I've got a question for you. I feel like this is going to be an interesting one. If you could retell any other story, what would be your next goal or a future goal for a retelling that you might like to work on? Even if you don't have details worked out, if there's one story that you could retell, what would it be?
Well, once I finish up my current one, I do want to do more in my Twisted Fairy Tale line. So I've thought about a Cinderella retelling, and it will be not like along the lines of Fiendish, because that one was kind of special, but it would be more still in adult books. I would like to do Cinderella, and I've even looked at doing one that was Hansel and Gretel. So those are two that are sort of playing around the back of my head while I'm trying to figure out or finish up my current work in progress.
I'm definitely playing with some ideas for a Cinderella retelling. There's a fairy tale contest that's featuring a Snow White theme to retell that one, that I'm trying to work out the specifics on what to do with that, but hopefully I can come up with something by December.
That's so awesome. And I feel like once we go behind the scenes, I want to hear more about this contest, because that sounds kind of awesome. It's always fun to get involved with these contests within the book world. There's so very many different opportunities, especially for authors working on retellings. So ladies, I want to know, how did you end up getting into doing a retelling? Was it something you came up on your own? How did you come up with that idea? Or did somebody kind of plant that idea and you were working toward an end goal? Alicia, why don't you go first?
Well, this definitely, Trial by Song is a story that I've been working on in different versions for years. It's hard to even get into it without telling you the whole story of this plot, but Jack's story is actually a spin-off of another story I was telling years ago, and he kind of grew up and became a much more interesting protagonist, and so now I'm really excited to get into his story.
That is so awesome. I love when you kind of start off in one place and then it branches off and then you develop this amazing world over here with something that you hadn't originally planned. It always works out so nicely, doesn't it?
Much better than it was originally.
Mika, tell us a little bit about how you got started with your retelling.
Well, mine came from I was like in a writer's forum kind of situation, and one of the prompts that we were given was to do a adult spin on a classic fairy tale, so a twisted fairy tale, and that's where the idea originally came from. And so once I realized which one I wanted to do, like which fairy tale I wanted to tackle, then the idea came to me on how I wanted to put a different spin on Beauty and the Beast to sort of make it stand out, because Beauty and the Beast is a classic and it's been done countless times. And so the goal was to try and make it different in some sort of way and to put the adult spin on it. And so that's how Phoenix was born.
That's fantastic. Now, as for my book, Golden, which is my young adult Goldilocks and the Three Bears retelling, this was something that had started when I was a little girl. I was always obsessed with knowing the story behind the fairy tale. So we had all those children's books, but nobody ever talked about Goldilocks. And I never had any idea why this girl would just wander into a house and think she could set up camp and then just kind of run away when the bears showed up. And I was obsessed with this girl, and I had to know her story. Now, the other half to this is that way back when, I used to go into the stores and I would match my hair color to the hair dyes within those hair dye lanes. And I always had golden hair. And people always portrayed Goldilocks as this girl with white blonde hair. And she actually didn't have white blonde hair. She had my color, according to the hair dyes in the store. And so I was obsessed with this girl because I had to know her story, but also because she represented my hair color, and nobody represented my hair color when I was a kid. And so for years and years and years, I thought through her story and I tried to figure it out. And eventually I realized she had to be there for a reason. So she was sent on a mission. What was her mission? Well, her mission is to destroy the bear family, who are not actual bears, but are people with the last name of Bear. And I developed this story where Goldilocks has been trained and sent on a mission, and her new target is Baby Bear. And then I kind of changed how the bear family worked. It wasn't a mother, a father, and a son, but rather a younger son, or a younger brother and his older brother and his older brother's wife. So it was kind of still the family unit, but a little bit different. And then I figured out why she was sent on this mission and who sent her on this mission. And it's just so much fun. So that is kind of how Golden came to life for me. I am seeing some comments. Jess is saying there's a whole set of retellings written by different authors, but all part of the same series, Once Upon a Time series. They're really good. And a number of them are written by Cameron Doki, which is really awesome. And kind of reminds me of the television show Once Upon a Time, which I am a huge fan of. Anybody else watching that with me, guys? Sound off in the comment box. Natasha is saying, have you ever thought of looking at fairy tales outside of the typical American culture? Or better yet, are there any specific fairy tales that you think have been retold to death? Well, that's a lot of questions right there, Natasha. So let me break that down. Ladies, have we ever thought of doing a fairy tale outside of the typical American culture? Mika, have you ever considered one of these, or would you possibly consider that in the future?
I would have to do some research on them because, you write what you know kind of the situation. So you know what you've grown up with and that's what you look at. But I know, like I have a friend who's into the fairy tales, but she likes the grim ones. So the original ones that already have that darker take. So it'd be something I would be happy to look into just to see what else is out there, because it gives you a whole new opportunity for more stories to tell.
Fantastic. Alicia, what do you think?
I definitely, once I get through Jack's story, want to look into more of the Russian stories, because there's so many different creatures and witches and hags that show up in those stories that I kind of want to explore a little bit more.
I love that. That's awesome. I feel like, me personally, I would definitely consider it, but very much like Mika said, I would have to do a lot of research because I would not want to mess anything up. And I'm very familiar with the fairy tales that I grew up with, but not so much outside of the typical American stories that we get growing up. So that would be something that would kind of fall almost into the research level of a historical fiction, where you really have to work to make sure you know what you are talking about, which is really cool. So now let's get to the second half of Natasha's question. She was asking, do you think that there are any specific fairy tales that have been retold to death? So are there anything that you think have been told just too many times and you wouldn't touch it? Mika, why don't you tell us first?
Well, I would say I wouldn't touch it because I did, and that's what my story is. But people have taken Beauty and Beast, whether it's books or movies, and they have redone it a lot. I think it's probably one of, at least that I am aware of, one of the most retold of the fairy tales. Because the story about it, taking this individual, finding his inner love, it's a great story. So I think that one definitely has been told quite often and retold and remade. So, but I did touch it because I did it, but I just did it in a completely different, in a completely different way. But I still did it because honestly, I love Beauty and the Beast. I took my kids to see it. It's my favorite. So.
Alicia, talk to us. What do you think about fairy tales that have been retold and retold to death?
I mean, I think that, sure, there are a lot of different versions, but I think that, you'll find elements of these stories, whether you're intending to tell a Beauty and the Beast, you will find that element in all kinds of different stories. The rough, tough person that finds the other person that brings out that softer side of them is a Beauty and the Beast story, even if you're out in the Wild West. So I don't think you can tell it too many times.
I love that you said that. I feel like there are definitely some retellings that have been told again and again and again. And I think the problem comes in when it's told in the same way. But when you find those big spins, those big twists, or those things that make it unique, then it can never be told too many ways. And I'm going to throw a little side note out here. I actually have 2 books out right now. I've got my Goldilocks retelling, but then I have a young adult dystopian, which is not a retelling. But very much like you said, there are some elements that could be identified as a fairy tale retelling. And I have been asked by multiple people if it's a retelling of something like Beauty and the Beast, because it does have some of those elements. And even though it's not, it kind of has just that little bit of overarching concepts from that could be applied to it. And people could potentially see it as a retelling, even though it wasn't intended to be. So if you figure out how to do it and do it the right way and come up with a really big twist, I feel like there's no way that you can ever do something too much as long as you do it uniquely.
Yes.
That's really awesome. Guys, if you have more questions, hit up that comment box. It's on the right side of the screen. If you have joined us a little bit later in our broadcast, and I do see that we've got some new people joining us. So Linda, hey, thanks for joining. Oh goodness, I apologize if you hear that. That is my puppy dog upstairs. I thought somebody was at my door. Sissy, thank you so much for joining us. If you've got questions, hit up the chat box on the right side of the screen. If you have a question, you can use the red question mark tab. That'll help us find it a little bit easier, but feel free to talk to us and talk to the other people in the chat room as well. We are talking all about retellings today, and we are going to be talking for a few more minutes about our books and how it kind of fits into that genre. And I want to talk a little bit about more of what we want to hear about retelling. So if you have questions, hit us up. We're going to make your questions priority over what we have kind of off to the side to be chatting about. So ladies, is there a specific retelling that you absolutely loved and just, if you could just say, this is my favorite in the entire genre, I would recommend everybody reads it. It really influenced me and gave me permission to do something. Do you have a retelling like that? No, we're shaking heads no. As I'm asking this question, I'm trying to think of an answer myself because I am just doing this off the cuff here, and I don't know if I have an answer to that. So sometimes I ask hard questions.
I think that Daughter of the Forest for me was and is my Six Swans retelling. Like, I don't need anything else out of that story because that really was everything that the original was, and I now understand what that journey cost. I don't have a Snow White or any of the big ones because there are so many versions, but I think on the smaller stories, there is usually one that'll stick out to me.
That's fantastic. Sissy is joining us a little bit late. It's okay that you are late, girl. I'm appreciative that you are here, and I know that you always come with really hard questions. So hit us up in that chat box and let us know what you are thinking. Ladies on the screen with me, Sissy Lou is a friend of mine, and she always shows up to my live broadcast, and she has hard-hitting questions, so get ready, because I don't know what she's going to pull. All right, so let's talk a little bit about how coffee fits into the retelling world. Now, this is Brewing Books, so of course we have to talk about coffee. Coffee may be something you love, maybe something that's only okay to you. But let's talk about what we think as far as coffee goes with retellings. Is this something we should have to read our retellings? Is this something we need to write our retellings? Do you have a specific coffee flavor that you love that kind of influences what you write or reminds you of a particular story? Alicia's smiling. She's got something, right?
Coffee in Trial by Song, there are a lot of conversations that happen around coffee, and it's just funny because anytime something serious goes down, everybody sits down and has a cup of coffee before they figure it out.
That's awesome. So it really influences your story. That's a very important thing.
For me, I'm not a coffee drinker myself. I will sometimes drink it. I like Starbucks on occasion, but I am more a tea girl. You can't really see it, but that says Irish breakfast tea. So that's how I get through my days. In my story, though, people, they do drink coffee. It's sort of the thing. Everyone has the Keurig machine, pop a pot in, make a cup, call it done. You sit, you talk, you relax. It's kind of what you do. It's, because like I said, I am in a contemporary setting. So they are sitting there and, hanging out and enjoying themselves a cup of coffee, waking up and having fun.
As far as my book goes, with Golden, there is no real coffee in here. I feel like if there were, my characters would go a little bit crazy. I don't think they need coffee. But in my other book, they are definitely in the kitchen an awful lot. I'm just gonna hold that baby up because I got this just a couple days ago. They do spend a lot of time in the kitchen, and coffee would definitely be a staple with them. So while it's not necessarily in Golden, it definitely would be in Jaded. Sissy says, coffee completes me. I've been drinking coffee since I was a toddler. Woman, I think that explains everything about your life. Natasha Lane says, so good. And she also says, why not have both? So yeah, you can absolutely have more than one fabulous drink that you are using as you are writing, as you are reading. Sound off in the chat box and let me know what your favorite coffee flavor is. And do you have a suggestion for the best coffee to be drinking while you're reading a retelling? I'm not going to lie, I know nothing about coffee, but I do know that our fabulous co-host has just joined us. J.M. Sullivan, thank you so much for hanging out.
Hi!
Hello. I know it has been a trip and a half for you, and I am really excited that you have joined us. We have been talking all about our books. We're just talking about coffee, which I feel like you probably have earned at this point. And we have been talking all about retellings. So, hello, we've got guests in the back. So JM, tell me just a little bit about your book. I did give a brief overview that Alice is your Alice in Wonderland retelling, but tell us a little bit more about that. We might have lost her just a little bit, so we're going to give that just a second. And I am seeing some comments, so let me read those off. Natasha is saying Colombian dark roast with only creamer or a caramel hazelnut is her favorite coffee. Ooh, good suggestions. I'm a huge fan of the smell of coffee. So while I don't drink coffee necessarily, I love the smell of coffee, especially early in the day. I'm a huge fan of walking into Starbucks and just being hit with that beautiful aroma. And I'm seeing that Jess is very much like me. She enjoys the smell of coffee, but not so much the taste. Sissy is saying, wow, we got a show. Yes. I do believe we lost JM. Again, I'm sure she's refreshing, and we will see what we can do at that point. But do send us a little bit of love in the chat box as we are kind of hanging out. And tell us how excited you are to be hearing all about these retellings today. Sissy is saying that she loves Bengal Spice Tea by Celestial Seasonings in the winter. Fantastic choice, my dear. Fantastic choice. All right. So let's talk a little bit more about why people are going to like your book. So ladies, I want you to give me just a little information about why you think people are going to be interested in your book or why they would really want to pick up your book. Alicia, let's go with you first. Tell us just a little bit of the highlights reel and why people should get their hands on a copy of your book.
Okay. Well, I'll say that Jack's story is trying to figure out his place in the world. So his family all has magical talents, and his happens to be music, except that in the world of fairies, you don't want to show off that you have fairy talents. So anytime he uses that magic, it attracts bad people. So he wants to be a musician, but he can't be a musician, and he's really at war with himself, which seems to be something that the rest of the world kind of deals with, in that we all want to be the greatest that we can be, but there's always something holding you back, whether it's your own life choices or responsibilities. There's always something in your way, and it's kind of a relatable journey that way, even though we don't all have monsters and fairies chasing us as we're trying to accomplish our goals.
I feel like we all have a version of monsters and fairies, though. They just aren't as cute.
I don't know if these are cute, but...
We could tell us a little bit about why people are going to want to get their hands on a copy of your book.
Well, I guess I should also say that my book is not young adult. It is an adult novel. So with that comes all adult things. So I have to put that out there. But Fiended is a definite different take on Beauty and the Beast. There is no scarred hero physically. He doesn't have any sort of facial things going on. It's not that situation. His beastly nature comes from his inside. It's that whole beauty's only skin deep sort of situation with Fiendish. That's the way I took it. It's not about the outside always. It's about what's on the inside, but kind of in a reverse. So with Seth, that's my beast. He's great looking. He's probably what you would want when you think of tall, dark, and handsome. That would be him. But he's a little evil. He has a few issues. He thinks people are for his amusement, and that's what he does. And so it's a different spin on, like I said, Beauty and the Beast. And it still comes down to, can love change a person enough to make them become something different? But it's the same sort of journey, because in the original Beauty and the Beast, she has to bring out his good from the inside to overtake what's on the outside. So this is sort of in the reverse. Can love really change a person to that extent? You have to sort of read the book to find out if Kalita is successful in doing so or not. But that is what makes it different. But I do, like I said, have to say it's not young adult. And it's not for the faint of heart in some parts, because we do get to see Seth at his worst with his entertainment. So have to put that out there.
All right, JM, now that you are back and settled in, we are so glad to see you. I know it's been a little bit on the crazy side for you today. Just in case you guys weren't sure, poor JM is in the process of moving, and she was having some internet troubles. We are glad to see you back. Let's talk a little bit about your book and why people are going to love it.
Yeah, first off, I want to say thank you guys for coming and everybody for being so patient with me. We'll talk about it later, but I have had the last hour and a half. Holy moly. So anyway, thank you for being patient. My book, Alice, The Wonderland Chronicles, is not nearly as big of a mess as I am, which is good. But it is a retelling of Alice in Wonderland with an undead twist. And so, as my publisher said, it's not your grandmother's Alice, and it's definitely not full of the whimsy and fantasy as much as it's a dystopian apocalyptic world where these creatures in the Momrath have taken over Wonderland, and it's basically a spin on a zombie plague. And so Alice has grown up in this world where the Momrath have taken over, and she's kind of had to learn how to fend for herself with her sister. But when her sister becomes sick, Alice has to venture out of the safety of the sector to go into Wonderland and find a cure. Otherwise, Dinah will be lost forever. So when she goes into Wonderland, she meets a wonderful host of colorful characters who are all very similar or familiar to Lewis Carroll fans, I think. And it's really fun. In my retelling, I think what I've heard most from people that like it is that they really enjoy how close and the parallels to Alice, the original, because I really wanted to make sure that it stayed very true to Carol's work. So that has been something that I've been very pleased that I feel like I actually might have done a pretty good job on. So it's fun. It is YA. So.
Fantastic. And I am seeing a quick comment over in the chat box. Sissy is saying, by the by, guys, I've started Alice, and really the first page hooks you. So she loves it already. She's just started it, which is really exciting. As far as my book goes, I've gotten some really amazing feedback on this. I've actually had this compared to The Hunger Games and Divergent, which is pretty cool for me since I'm a big fan of those within the YA genre. And this just takes Goldilocks and the Three Bears and really turns it on its head. So we've got Goldilocks on a mission. She is out for blood. She is going to take the bears down. And she was a highly trained girl sent on this mission. And she kind of gets thrown into this world where she has been told that the bear family and their group are really, really evil people. And they have to save their people from this group within society. And she gets there and she realizes they are not nearly as evil as she was told. Her cousin who sent her on this mission had kind of over-exaggerated, and he has his own plans and his own goals, and he is willing to manipulate her to accomplish those goals. And so she has to decide between doing what is right and taking care of her only remaining family, and she really has to kind of go through this process of how can I save both the bears group and my family's group? How do I take care of everybody? And how do I not get tangled up in all these lies I'm spitting out? And so obviously it gets really twisted. It gets pretty dark. It does get a little on the dark side, just warning you now. But I've had some really great response to it. I absolutely love that she has this crisis of conscience and she has to decide and really choose a side. And then once she does, she actually has to survive the wrath of the other side and the society and everybody else coming after her. So it's kind of an interesting thing, and I have been yelled at a lot for my ending, because it's a trilogy, guys. Just keep that in mind. That's why I think you guys should check out my retelling of Goldilocks and the Three Bears. I'm going to check in real quick with the chat box, because I know that I skipped over some things, so let me see what's going on over here. Natasha, back when we were talking about what retellings we really liked and what have been a little bit overdone, she was mentioning that she thought Red Riding Hood, because there were too many movie adaptations, overdone. But what do we think? I personally am a huge fan of Red Riding Hood, and maybe I've been limited in my viewpoint, but I feel like I haven't seen very many, so maybe I missed out on something. Miko, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I saw the question. I'm trying to think what Red Riding Hood ones I've seen. Or I can't think of any offhand, but if Natasha wants to give us a list over there in the chat box, that'd be great. Because now I'm like, what's out there? Because I'd want to read it or see the movies or whatever. So give us a list, Natasha, so we'll know.
Yes. Alicia, what do you think? Have you seen a lot of Red Riding Hood retellings? Oh, I think we just lost her feed. Alicia, if you're still here, just click that refresh button for me and you will be back. JM, talk to me. Have you seen a lot of Red Riding Hood retellings?
Yes, actually I have. In fact, one of the Red Riding Hood retellings my first retellings that I read is Sisters Red by Jackson Pierce, and she is phenomenal. It's a darker retelling, and it follows these two sisters, and they have to go, and they also have these monsters that they're fighting, and they're very similar to werewolves, and It's really cool. It's definitely, if you like darker, grittier kind of novels, Sister Red is really good, and it was even better if Jackson Pierce has some kind of sister novel to it. It's not really like a trilogy or a series specifically, but her novels all kind of tie in and intertwine together, so it's really cool. So Sister's Red, then Sweetly is the next one, and then Fathomless, and that's all by Jackson Pierce. So good.
Fantastic. Alicia, glad you're back. We are talking about Red Riding Hood retellings. Have you seen a lot of these? Do you feel like that's overdone?
I mean, I know the movie came out a couple of years ago, and then there was what's that one? The Company of Wolves from way back. That, in terms of movies, I thought they were decent. I can't think of any Red Riding Hoods off the top of my head, books wise, that haven't already been mentioned.
I feel like, and I'm just going to throw this out here, I'm a huge fan of the TV show Once Upon a Time, which is all about retellings. If you guys have not seen it, I highly recommend it. It retells just about every fairy tale out there, except for Goldilocks, because again, nobody talks about Goldilocks. But they had a fantastic way of retelling Red Riding Hood, where she was actually the werewolf, and that cape kept her as a human. And I'm not the biggest person on werewolves, but I loved what they did with it. So I feel like I would definitely look into more Red Riding Hood retellings because I'm not familiar with very many of them. So I'll have to check those out. I'm seeing we're definitely getting some different suggestions over in the chat box. So thank you guys so much for that. Let me see. We're talking more about different types of coffee that we like. Sissy says that she's not a huge fan of flavored coffee unless it's mocha. But if she treats herself, she loves to drink the chestnut praline latte from Starbucks. But really, she's a dark roast lover with a splash of cream and no sugar. So there we go. We found Sissy's recipe for happiness. And good news, ladies. Sissy has put both Mika and Alicia's books on her TBR. And she would also have added me and Jam, but she's actually already read my book and she's reading JM's book. So we're on her TBR, and you guys are now too.
Thank you.
All right. Let me see. I'm just going to read off some of these suggestions. The only Red Riding Hood that I have read was Scarlet by Marissa Mayer. I'm actually not sure how to say her name. Sister Red is out there. Beauty and the Werewolf. Little Miss Red was one that she has also said is out there and available. And she read that one. It's pretty good. And the other ones are decent as well. So thank you so much for those suggestions. We love hearing your book suggestions. And actually, guys, if you've got a second, go ahead and pop in the chat box what retellings you would recommend to people, because we just gave some of the things that we have been talking about throughout the course of this show as far as books that we love, that have inspired us, that we would recommend as retellings to other people. But we want to hear more about what you would love for people to read within the genre of retelling. So hit up that chat box and let us know what you've read that you absolutely love, preferably with names I can pronounce, please. That's always my fear, to get on one of these live broadcasts and say someone's name wrong. Fun times. All right, so we are going to be wrapping this up in the next few minutes. If you have questions for any of us or all of us, please hit up our chat box. We want to know what you're thinking, and we want to get those questions answered for you. JM, I know you missed a little bit about what we were talking about earlier, so let's catch up with you just a touch. We talked a little bit about Alice, but tell us a little bit about what you were thinking about retellings in general, and tell us a little bit about retellings that you might recommend to people.
Okay, I love retellings. They are my happy place.
Could you hold that just a little closer? Yeah.
Mess. I love retellings. They are like my happy place. One retelling that I will always recommend is actually one of the very first books it's the very first book I picked out for myself. And it is a retelling of Cinderella, and it is called Ella Enchanted, and it is just phenomenal. It's really probably more of a middle grade young adult fantasy, so it's an easier read, definitely. But the storytelling and the world building is just so good. And if you've seen the movie, like, please, I mean, the movie's kind of great if you've never read the book, but the book is just, it's like a billion times better. So Ella Enchanted by Gail Carson Levine. And actually recently I read another Cinderella retelling that was called Mechanica. And that one was actually really pretty cute too. And so those are some really good ones. I love retelling. Probably, that being said, I don't know that I'll ever write a Cinderella retelling because to me, that's the one that seems kind of overdone. And I love Cinderella, and I'll pick up a Cinderella retelling and read it like Cinder. I love that whole series. But that one to me, I've seen so many really good versions of it. I don't know that I would be able to top them, so I'll probably just leave Cinderella alone.
Always a good point. I am seeing some really great suggestions in the chat box. Splintered by A.G. Howard, which is an Alice in Wonderland retelling. It was super creepy and on par with Tim Burton. Ella Enchanted is getting a lot of love in the chat box as well. Red Archer by H.L. Brooks is probably a top for Natasha. So Linda has said that A.G. Howard also did a Snow White retelling, which is awesome. Goose Girl by Shannon Hale has got to be one of my favorites, Sissy says. I've had it since it came out, and she loves that story. Jess likes Briar Rose by Jane Yolen. It is a Sleeping Beauty retelling with a Holocaust story mixed in. Oh, well, doesn't that sound interesting? I'll have to look into that one. So Linda is giving some love to Shannon Hale's The Goose Girl. And Jess says Mechanica was good. The sequel is out this year. Well, wasn't that exciting? Fantastic. All right, so let's talk just a little bit about why retellings are so incredibly important to the book world. We talked about why we love retellings. We talked all about how it kind of fits into our lives. But let's kind of wrap this up by saying why we think that retellings are so important within the book community as a whole. JM, let's go with you first.
Well, I think retellings are really important because they help kind of keep this literature alive. They revisit these old ideas and these old classics, and they breathe a whole new life into them. And so I think they're a really good bridge between people who may have loved like the classics, and it can help them find a new favorite, or it can work the other way. If somebody reads a retelling and then they've never maybe heard of the other one, they can go back and explore. And I just think it kind of goes full circle in the literature world, and I think that's a really cool concept.
All right, Mika, tell us, why do you think retellings are so important to the book community?
I think it gives people who grew up reading those fairy tales. I think people who grew up reading the fairy tales as little kids, getting a chance to let them grow with you. They go from being something you read, your parents read to at night, to as you get up into like middle grade, you sort of get a little bit deeper into it, and it grows with you. So even from little kid up to adult, you can have a take on those stories that you loved and see them with fresh eyes, and it just never gets old. It's sort of like comfort food. It's something you love, and it just makes you feel good to read them, even if the story's in a different way. It just makes you feel good.
Fantastic. Alicia, you're up. Why are retellings so important to the book world?
I think that because it's a story we already know, we get to see how culture and ideas have changed. You get, in the original Snow White is extremely passive, and now you come out with these versions where she's a zombie killer and all kinds of stuff, and you definitely get to see what characteristics and what values have changed over time and what we still sort of hang on to. And I think that's really, really interesting aspect to them.
Fantastic. And as for me, the thing I love most about retellings is that it really changes our perspective. It makes you realize there's more than one side to every story, and each person involved within the story has a different viewpoint. They all see themselves as the hero of their own story, and every single perspective is going to be different, and everybody has a different take on those different perspectives. So I love that it forces us to think about things in a way that we didn't originally think it through, and I love that we get to have these different inputs, and we get to see these different viewpoints, and we get to get really creative with it. So I think it's incredibly important to have retellings within the book community and within the book world, because it expands our horizons and forces us to look at something in a way that we didn't even know was possible. So I absolutely love that retellings. All right. Any last minute questions, guys? Hit us up in that chat box. And we are going to wrap this baby up. Thank you so much for joining us today for Brewing Books. This is going to be a monthly event that we do. It's going to be the first Friday of every month. We're going to have a different topic we're going to be talking about. This week was retellings. And usually it's going to be the first Friday of every single month at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. But because this is our kickoff, we have 2 back-to-back weeks. We've got today where we're talking about retellings, and we've got next week, which we're going to tell you about in just a minute. Now, if you've got questions, if you want to join us for future Brewing Books, go ahead and hit up that comment box, and we will get you sent an email so that you know the next time we go live. We're going to talk all about that. I'm really excited because we've got a lot of great things going on. So we are going to talk for just a minute about next week's episode, and then we are going to talk to each of our authors, and we're going to find out where the fans and the viewers can connect with each of these ladies to learn more about their books, to hit them up on social media, and to talk about their websites. So JM, tell me just a little bit about next week's episode of Brewing Books.
Yes, well, next week's episode, I will be there the whole time. So there's that. Also, it is going to be on dystopian novels. So we will be talking about all of those worlds that are just not quite perfect, or really not perfect at all. So if you love dystopian, make sure you come swing by, because we're going to be talking about it all. Plagues, apocalypses, I don't know what other dystopian.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, what?
Is that what we're talking about next week?
Dystopian?
Contemporary?
Oh, you're right. This is why I keep her around.
We actually switched our schedule, guys. We had some authors with our contemporary episode who were available next week, and our dystopians were not all available next week. So we switched those around. So JM, let's try that one more time with contemporary.
Man, I was doing such a good job promoting.
I know you were. I know.
Editing, guys. Editing is a beautiful thing. I don't know about this live stuff. Contemporary is going to be all those fabulous books that are in the here and now. So if you love books about real life, people in high school, adult, whatever, if it's real-ish, like it's fiction. So real-ish, and that's a word, y'all. It is going to be talked about in our contemporary. We've got some really great authors coming up. They are actually all from my pen name publishing family. And one of them, her book just came out last week, and another one, her book is coming out July 11th. And the third lady is an award-winning author for her book Scout's Honor. So they are all very knowledgeable contemporary artists, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
Fantastic. And we are looking forward to that. That is going to be next week on July 7th at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And it will continue to be the first Friday at 11 a.m. every single month with a brand new topic. We're going to have new authors on, and we're going to be chatting all about different genres and different themes throughout the book community. We hope that you will join us. You can check out all of this information on our social media, so make sure you are hitting that up for the links to the next broadcast. We're really excited for it, and we hope that you will join us. All right, as we wrap this up, we are going to take just a minute to say goodbye to our authors and find out where we can connect with them. So authors on the screen with me, we are going to go over your name, your book title, your website, and whatever social media links you would like to give out for people to connect. So JM, let's start with you. Kick it off with your contact info.
Okay. You all can find me on Twitter or Instagram at _JM_Sullivan, where I promise I'm a lot less of a hot mess. You can also find me on my blog, where I talk writing, reading, life as a mommy of these 2 monsters right here, who you may have seen earlier. And that is jmsullivanauthor.wordpress.com, and Facebook at J.M. Sullivan Books. So anywhere, all of the places you can find me. I love to chat. I love to say hello. I love to connect.
Fantastic. Alicia, why don't we do you next?
Okay. You can find me on Twitter at Alicia_Gale with an E. So it's Gaile. And then I have a Facebook page, which is also Alicia Gale on Facebook. And then my WordPress would be Story Garden on WordPress. So my novel would be Trial by Song, and it comes out on August 3rd.
And Mika, let's wrap it up with you.
Okay. Well, I am on Twitter, Instagram, and the name stays the same because I have to make it easy to remember for myself. So you'll always find me at author Mika James at any of the locations, because if I change it up, I get confused. It's a mess. So on Twitter, I'm author Mika James. On Instagram, I am author Mika James. I do have a Facebook, but it's underused, so you can go there if you want. But you'll find me more so on your blog, on my blog, which is not. It is Mika's Musing for my blog, and it's on Blogspot. And if you go to my Twitter page, you'll see it's at the top because I changed. It was a mess. So it's there. And then what else do I do? I think that's all of them. Yeah. Facebook, don't really use, but I have a blog, and then I have Twitter, and I have a Tumblr, but it's also underused, so I don't have to worry about those. And but you'll find me most likely on Twitter or on my blog. So I do those mostly. And my book is Fiendish, A Twisted Fairy Tale. It is an adult retelling of Beauty and the Beast.
Fantastic. And I'm just going to point out, I'm actually a social media marketing strategist, and we teach people to keep the name the same so that your fans can find you. So while it helps you, it helps your fans too.
Awesome. Ahead of the game then.
You are. All right. I am K.M. Robinson. I am the author of Golden, which is the first book in the Golden Trilogy, which is now available. You can get your hands on a copy of this. You can hit my website up at k.m.robinsonbooks.com. You can also find me on social media at k.m.robinsonbooks on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and Snapchat. I am incredibly social. Even if you have not read my books, please come talk to me. We will talk about all sorts of fabulous things, and we will be friends. So I would love to hang out with you guys. And again, thank you so much for joining us for Brewing Books. We really appreciate you coming out for our initial episode. Everybody is very excited about it. Everybody on screen with us too. Very excited. Excited for the books too. Yes, we are. There you go. We would love for you to take a look at our books. That was a quick look at JM's book. I hope that you read all that. Otherwise, you're going to have to get your hands on an actual copy of it and read it. Oh, goodness. Everyone's excited, including the teddy bear, who probably has a retelling all his own as well. And if he doesn't, I'm pretty sure that JM has to write it and put it out on her blog now. Thank you so much for joining us. Natasha wants to know if I offer classes. Yes, ma'am, I do. You can hit me up at, go to readingtransforms.com, and you can look me up at Reading Transforms on Facebook and Instagram. And then my Twitter handle is just a little bit different because it didn't let me have all the letters. ReadingTransform. Yeah, it knocked off a couple more letters. So look me up at Reading Transforms on Facebook and Instagram. That's where I am anyway. So readingtransforms.com, and I teach all sorts of social media marketing strategy for authors and fabulous stuff. So come look me up. We'll be friends. All right. Officially wrapping up now. Thank you guys so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. We know a lot of people have been in the room with us. Thank you so much for hanging out with us, Natasha and Celinda and Jess and Sissy. We really appreciate you. I'm trying to scroll through and get all the names. A lot of wonderful people joining us today. We really appreciate you being here. We would love to see you here next week for a contemporary contemporary episode of Brewing Books. We've got some amazing people, and we would love for you to come hang out with them as well. Make sure you hang out with all these authors on their websites and on social media. Reach out. Do me a favor. If you are here with us right now, I want you to pull out your phones. Take your phones, assuming you're not watching us on your phones.
No.
Take your phones if you are watching us and snap a picture of your screen. I want you to go on social media, especially places like Instagram stories, and take a picture of us on your screen. I will probably look a little weird because I'm talking right now. And I want you to tag all these wonderful ladies in there to say that, hey, I was at this amazing show today, Brewing Books, with these incredible authors. You should check out their next episode. And just so you guys know, we will be having a rebroadcast of this out on YouTube. Within the next couple of days. I do have to download this footage and get it up on to YouTube, so you will be able to see this and share this with your friends if you have found this interesting, if you found this valuable, or if you think that you have a fan or a friend who is a fan of retellings and would benefit from coming to hang out with us during the rebroadcast. So if you would love to share this, we would absolutely be so incredibly thankful if you would share the rebroadcast once it's out there and invite your friends to our next episode. Can you send us an email with the recommendations from the comments? Jess would like to know. You know what, Jess? I can do that. I will go through those comments and we will compile a list of the recommendations for the fairy tale retellings, and we will get that sent out to you over the weekend. I promise you it's not going to be today because I am crazy busy. But it will be over the weekend. We will get that sent to your inboxes. I do have your emails from your registration, so you will be hearing from me shortly with some of these amazing book recs, as well as direct links to all of these wonderful ladies' books so that you can go out and get your hands on a copy of those as well. All right, thank you so much. Any last words real quick? We're just going to go around the circle and let everybody say one final thing before we sign off. So, JM, kick us off.
Thank you guys so much for coming. Please come back next time. I promise it will be a lot calmer on my screen.
Alicia, go ahead.
Thanks for having me. It's been a lot of fun, and I look forward to watching your next broadcast.
And Mika, go ahead.
Thanks for having me. Thanks people who tuned in to actually listen to us talk. That's always nice. And it was fun.
Fantastic. And guys, we truly appreciate you being here. If you like to hang out on social media, you're all very social creatures. We would love to hear from you. And we do have these live broadcasts all the time. If you are interested in more of these live broadcasts, I do a ton of them. So come find me on social media. You can catch some of my other times when I am interviewing some awesome authors as well. And we might just have to get these ladies on the show too. Fun times. You guys have a fantastic day. We will see you next time. Until then, grab yourself a cup of coffee and we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.